Hello and welcome back to the Grandmaster division of the Intermezzo Championship. The last game of the season is ahead of us, and with my win in the last game, I actually already made sure that I will win this season. But of course, for most of the time in this game, I didn't knew this already. And actually, because if you maybe remember the last game, it was kind of a surprise to me that I finished in first place. I rather expected that I will finish second in Wozniac's wins it, and that would have meant that I really need to win this game. And so I really played this game knowing that I really maybe have to win this in order to win the league. So I definitely was very focused. And it's also still an important game for my two opponents, Tamirys and AaronGreen. Both of them still have to fight against relegation. Tamirys needs a win to stay in the league. And AaronGreen, for him, it depends on the last game of Footloop, on whether he has to win it or whether maybe a second place is also enough. Yeah, so that should be an exciting last game of the season. And now we can first of all take a look at the leaders and wonders. And we can see that in H3 there is Marlene Dietrich, Chaplin, Fleming, and Hollywood. So that's definitely something. Also Bach, Shakespeare, Gaudi in H2. So if this is possible to pull something up like this, then a culture strategy could definitely work. We also have Spaceflight together with Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. So that's something. Pierre is there, Churchill is there. In H2 we have James Cook and the Suez Canal, so the colonization strategy could definitely work out. We also have the ocean liner service. We also have the two science leaders with Newton and Nobel. And then there's also Darwin. Also one thing to note is that there is no military action leader, apart from Caesar, but in H1 and H2 no single military action leader, which maybe makes the Colosseum quite valuable. In H1 we have Machu Picchu, we have the two strength wonders, Himeji Castle and Great Wall, we have Forbidden City. We have Columbus, who could work nicely with the colonization strategy. And then we have Eleanor, maybe also with a colonization strategy as a transitional leader. We have Gutenberg to set up some labs or printing presses. Isabella could also work with the colonization strategy. And then we have Nostradamus and Genghis Khan as strength leaders. And Michelangelo, maybe with Machu Picchu, could of course also do some nice stuff. Tamirys is in the first position and he doesn't take the Colosseum. I think it definitely could be an idea, now that we just saw that there is no military action leader in H1 and H2, but he rather wants to have the engineering genius. And that leaves the Colosseum for myself, but as you see, I actually take Hippocrates here. And I definitely thought about taking the Colosseum. Of course, the pyramids could also be an option, but if I make the decision to take a wonder, I think it has to be the Colosseum here, because, with those missing military action leaders, this military action could really be very valuable. So I think I would not pick the pyramids over the Colosseum here. If both of those wonders would be in one civil action, then maybe I would pick the pyramids, because I just think it's a very, very strong wonder, probably the strongest HA wonder in my opinion. And but I wouldn't pick it for an additional civil action here. No, but I go for Hippocrates here, and the problem is, if I go, for example, like for something like Colosseum plus Frugality, and then maybe AaronGreen goes for Hippocrates and Stockpile or something like this, and then Aristotle will be available for one for Tamirys. It's very likely that he will go for him, and then I just don't know at all what leader I will get, and it's actually quite likely that there is no leader available for me for one civil action. And then I might have to take a leader for two, which is awkward. There's no Hammurabi, no Confucius, with both of those leaders left in the deck. Maybe I would have been fine with that, because there's the chance that I maybe can go for one of those, and maybe I would be willing to pay two civil actions for those, and when that means that I can get a Colosseum plus a yellow card now. But I'm not really willing to pay two civil actions for any of those leaders. I mean, maybe if I have to, Boudica could maybe be fine, Cleopatra maybe. No, but I don't want to pay two for Caesar. Moses, Ashoka is also very questionable for two civil actions, I would say. So it would be annoying, and the alternative, if I don't want to pick a leader, would be to take two yellow cards. And not getting a leader in the first two turns is just something that doesn't work out very nicely most of the times. So because of that I went for Hippocrates. I sadly don't get a Colosseum, but there are a lot of strong wonders in a row, and I should hopefully be able to either get Stonehenge or Roman roads, and then I have a very fine wonder, I have a very fine leader, and I just have something to go to work with, and with the Colosseum it could just be a very awkward second turn. So even though it is definitely very strong with this Leaders and Wonders combination, I still didn't go for it. And AaronGreen also doesn't go for the Colosseum. He is willing to pay an additional civil action for the pyramids. Maybe he doesn't want to give Tamirys the Aristotle pyramids combination, and that definitely could be an argument. Tamirys builds a mine, takes Aristotle, and he takes the Rome roads for an additional civil action, so there's really a lot of disrespect for the Colosseum. 4 times a player had a chance to grab it for 1 civil action, and there are no military action leaders, and still no player took it. And I'm really not sure. I think Tamirys maybe should go for the Colosseum in this situation. I mean, he is definitely a player who really likes to build up a lot of economy, and of course Rome Roads is economically speaking the better wonder than the Colosseum. Also he has the engineering genius in hand, but I don't think it maybe works that nicely together. He pays an additional civil action for it. It also costs 4 civil actions to finish, meaning that he probably has not a lot of civil actions left to maybe grab some technologies with Aristotle, so that is maybe not the greatest combination. And then, I don't think it's worth it to pick it here for an additional civil action. It also isn't really a denial, because I am also very fine with Stonehenge. So I think the Colosseum is maybe the better choice, but I mean it fits his play style, and he definitely is. Tamirys definitely has gotten a lot of strong results with his kind of style of play. So let's see how it will work out. This turn is a very clear turn for me. I go for Hippocrates, build a mine, increase my population, and take the Stonehenge. And I draw the Immigration, which could be an interesting event, because I'm the only player with a wonder that gives a happy face. AaronGreen builds a mine, takes the iron, and increases his population, meaning that he will skip his HA leader. But I mean, Caesar in last position could be questionable what he will do exactly. Moses for 2 is questionable, and if he goes for leader, then it will be difficult for him to take this early iron. So I definitely can understand his decision, but missing out on an HA leader is definitely not a great thing. Then Tamirys doesn't finish the Rome roads, instead he increases his population, builds a lab, takes Genghis Khan. It probably means that he's drawn something like heavy cavalry or maybe phalanx or medieval army already, I would say. And then he builds a lab, increases his population, maybe has the option to finish the Rome roads at the next turn. My turn, I seed the Immigration into the deck. As I said, I have the only happy face wonder, and so I thought I can maybe seed this. The development of trade routes is revealed. I build my second lab now, and then this irrigation is available for 1 civil action, also together with the rich land. So I think that is something nice for me to take, so I go for it. This gives me something to upgrade, and there is another copy of iron. And maybe I have the chance to go for it. With the rich land I could even go for 2 upgrades at the next turn, or actually not, because with my last civil action I will build a stage of the Stonehenge, and Tamirys might just finish the Rome roads, meaning I get maybe this iron, then I can maybe still go for iron first. But maybe also Tamirys will take it away. Maybe he will delay his Rome roads. He also has 5 signs available, even 1 more if he elects Aristotle before grabbing the iron, meaning he could go for an iron upgrade. And then maybe the iron gets denied, and then the irrigation is definitely nice, so that I still have something to upgrade. My last civil action is maybe a mistake. I built 1 stage of the Stonehenge, and I could increase my population instead. That would give me a free population. Nowadays I don't care too much about having a free population for the development of religion, and so I think it is actually fine to build a stage. However, one thing to consider is that I just seeded immigration, and missing out on the religion with the immigration in the deck would be awkward. And also I spent 1 resource, and I just told you, or thought for a moment when I told you that I can go for 2 upgrades, but it actually denies it. Now I need some resource from developments to be able to go for 2 upgrades if the iron should be available. So I think maybe increasing population is actually the better decision here, because with the immigration, missing out on a religion would be even more awkward. And if the iron is available, then I could have gone maybe for 2 upgrades. So that is maybe a the wrong choice, but at least I will stay out of consumption for one more turn. That also will allow me to increase my population 2 times instead of only 1 time at the next turn, so I think it's also still fine, but maybe increasing population is better here. Then I draw the cultural influence and the trade routes agreement. AaronGreen builds his second lab now. He takes the swordsman, has the military technology in hand, now also takes the rich land for the iron that he has in hand and increases his population. Tamirys elects Aristotle this turn, meaning that he won't finish the Rome roads this turn, and indeed he will go for the iron. He doesn't want to give me the iron, maybe with having the Stonehenge, and then he goes for one upgrade and increases his resource production like this. And can maybe then finish Rome roads at the next turn if he wants to. He reveals the heavy cavalry tactic, probably to having to be able to keep more cards in hand, and that means that he has some strength potential as soon as he goes for Genghis Khan. This turn I see the cultural influence and the development of markets are revealed. And I just miss out on both irons, so I made a decision to take the additional resources here. And I build one stage of the Stonehenge here that gives me 8 signs, and with those 8 signs I will go for the monarchy. I think the monarchy is quite valuable here. First of all, it's just a nice boost. I can invest additional signs of the Stonehenge very nicely. And as said, the Colosseum would have been quite strong because of the missing military action leaders, meaning that if I don't go for an H1 government or maybe the warfare, I would be stuck on 2 military actions. So I think because of this, the monarchy is quite strong here. I can invest my signs of the Stonehenge, so I think that is nice. And then with my last 2 civil actions, I could either finish the Stonehenge, that would get me out of corruption, or I can increase my population 2 times. And now that I have the irrigation in hand, I already had it in hand at the last turn, that maybe was not a reason why increasing population would have been better, but I have this in hand. The immigration is in the deck, and so this turn then I made the decision to increase my population, and that gets me out of corruption. I have now 3 populations for potential development of religions or development of warfares. And then at the next turn I can maybe finish the Stonehenge, maybe I can go for irrigation, so those are options. And also I was looking at Isabella, because next turn I will collect the 3rd token from Hippocrates, and with missing out on the iron, Isabella could definitely be nice to maybe get at least some additional resource production. I draw no event, but a Knight's Tactic, also a colonization card. AaronGreen goes for iron this turn, goes for 2 upgrades, and then takes the irrigation. There is a Machu Picchu in the game, so he maybe wants to be prepared for that. Then it's Tamirys' turn. He again doesn't finish the Rome roads. Instead, he grabs the alchemy and the code of laws, scoring 2 signs with Aristotle, and also having something to upgrade. Now he switches to Genghis Khan, goes for 1 upgrade and even another upgrade. And maybe his plan is to finish Rome roads at the next turn, and that's maybe why he thought he can maybe just switch to Genghis Khan already for the 3 culture, because when he will finish Rome roads the next turn, and of course he wouldn't get any value out of Aristotle. This turn I can't see it, but I will be able to go for Isabella. She is available. I could wait for other leaders. Nostradamus could be very fine. Maybe I could do something with Gutenberg. Michelangelo probably rather difficult without having iron production. But Isabella is here now. I have collected all of the 3 tokens, so I think it's very fine to just go for her. And I can elect her. Then I can take the alchemy, build 1 stage of the Stonehenge to get 4 signs, develop the alchemy and upgrade 1 time. I think that's just a very clean turn. I increase my resource production by 1, increase my science production by 1. The next turn I can finish the Stonehenge, maybe go for another upgrade to alchemy, maybe I can start going for irrigation, so I miss out on the iron, but I'm at least at 4 resource production now, and I will be able to upgrade my science and my food production. And also I was eyeing this Forbidden City. With the monarchy, I think that's quite a nice wonder, being able to get 1 more civil action, and that maybe will also depend a little bit on whether the development of religion is revealed, because if it is revealed, then I have 2 happy faces already, and I don't actually need the ability maybe for quite a while, and then maybe it isn't really worth it. But if there is no development of religion is revealed, then it definitely could be an option, and maybe even if there is the development of religion revealed. I draw the border conflict, the barbarians, and the medieval army. AaronGreen finishes the pyramids, increases his population, and takes the cartography, so he maybe has drawn a strong colony. He didn't seed anything yet, but maybe he has one in hand. Maybe he just sees that there is Zeus Cannon, James Cook in the game, so maybe that definitely could turn out to be a nice technology. On the other hand, he's relatively low on science, so it's maybe also a little bit questionable if he can make some use out of it. Tamirys seeds, and the development of crafts is revealed, so some additional resources. He will develop the code of laws, uses the engineering genius, and then will finish the Rome roads. To get out of corruption, he will build one warrior, and that puts him at 2 strength, and I mean he will need this warrior anyway, with going for the heavy cavalry. This turn I seeded the barbarians. Tamirys will get a little bit of a culture lead with Genghis Khan, so hopefully there should not be any risk of getting hit by that, and if maybe Tamirys won't be the strongest, then he maybe can lose a population later on. The development of religion is revealed, and as I said, with that being revealed, the Forbidden City may becomes less strong. I finished the Stonehenge this turn. That definitely helps me a lot to get out of corruption. I could go for the Forbidden City, but I think I should go for the Knights here. There's definitely a chance that I could still get Knights at the next turn. Tamirys maybe doesn't really need the Knights. AaronGreen maybe also some other stuff to do. So there is a chance, but I don't know it. And Tamirys, with building one more warrior, he can go up to 7 strength, and then if I should miss out on the Knights, it could get quite dangerous. So I really didn't like this, and because of that I was willing to grab the Knights, and to get out of corruption I can then upgrade my second lab to alchemy, going up to 4 science production. At the next turn I can go for Knights. I even have enough science to go for Knights and irrigation, meaning that I can maybe build 1 Knight, or maybe even more second Knights, and then I can still go for irrigation with the rich land, so that could be a nice turn for my next turn. And I still have 1 civil action left, and with this last civil action I made a decision to go for the frugality. Next turn I can get 1 population out, and thanks to the Hippocrates token I won't go into 2 consumption when the age ends, meaning that the frugality should give me an additional population relatively soon. There's also a drama, as we said in the beginning. A culture strategy could be quite nice with Bach and Marlene, so I definitely also thought about going for the drama, but I rather wanted to have this frugality. And there is still a second copy left, but it definitely could be an idea. I missed out on the iron, and then just having some food production, building some cheap dramas, and getting a lot of culture reduction could be a way to play it, but I most of the times rather try to just build up my economy as efficiently as possible, but it definitely could be a way how to approach this game. But with the second copy left, that is also not completely out of the question that I maybe can still go for it. AaronGreen goes for Michelangelo, will grab Tamirys Castle for 1 civil action cheaper, and also gets 1 resource, and then he will upgrade his last mine to get out of corruption. And I mean, he has definitely some nice production. Tamirys Castle will help him defending when Tamirys maybe will get stronger now. There's still no Machu Picchu in the game, so Michelangelo definitely could do some nice work. Tamirys opens the development of civil life, uses it to develop the alchemy, takes the Great Wall. That definitely could be a very nice wonder for him. And then he goes for the 3rd warrior, meaning that he goes up to 7 strength. Is definitely by far the strongest now, and that means that I kinda have to go for 1 knight at my turn now. At the turn before I drew some colonies, and I'm also not the weakest this turn. There's the immigration in the deck, which I would win now, but who knows, maybe one of the players will go for Happy Face solution soon, so I kinda wanted to push the deck, because I'm not the weakest, and so I seeded the strategic territory. The reds are revealed. It's a little bit awkward with having this frugality in hand. I seeded the strategic territory because I thought it could maybe have some potential. It's maybe a little bit questionable because AaronGreen just took the cartography, but I just thought he is really low in science, and so he might not go for it because he has more important stuff to do. And then both of my opponents are on 2 military actions. Both of them can't that easily go for a monarchy or something like this, meaning that they maybe stay on 2 military actions for some more while. And that could just mean that I better prepared for those colonies with having Isabella and with having my third military action. And there is a Suez Canal that could also help me to get some resource production in case the coals are late. So because of that, I wanted to cede this territory. Could of course also ceded a scientific breakthrough, but the thing is both of my opponents still need a government form, and Tamirys, if he goes for one more upgrade, and if the Rome roads will start producing science, then he has 5 science production, and then I thought it could definitely help him more than me, and also AaronGreen, even when he doesn't get the most science out of it, he really needs some additional science, and so that could also just be a very helpful event for him. I used to develop no civil life to develop the knights. I then also go for irrigation. I go for 2 upgrades so that I can increase my population at the next turn, making it possible that I can build another unit at my next turn in case I want to get stronger. And then I also have to build 1 knight. I reveal the medieval army tactic going up to 5 strength, so I remain the second strongest. I am not in any danger of non-aggression. And then with my last 2 civil actions, I could potentially just grab breakthrough or urban growth or something like this. But at some point, I probably want to be able to go for my 6th civil action, so I went for the Code of Laws. But that makes my last civil action maybe a little bit awkward. I go for the Bread and Circuses. I mean, Bread and Circuses is not bad. There is even Pierre in the game, Darwin, Gaudi, so there's definitely synergy. But I already have 2 happy faces, and it's just a technology that I don't really need, and I rather would like to go for H2 happy face solutions, but with this synergy it could do something, and maybe it will be nice to have it in hand. I keep my colony in the scientific breakthrough. I draw the Crusades. Then the H ends. I will get 1 of the Hippocrates yellow tokens. Green loses the stockpile. He cedes while being the weakest. The barbarians are revealed, and Tamirys has the most culture, but he's also the strongest, so nothing happens. AaronGreen finishes the Meiji Castle. He builds 1 swordsman to get stronger, to not be in any danger of an aggression, and then he will grab the Machu Picchu, and he will grab the breakthrough. The additional science is definitely nice, and I mean, with the Machu Picchu, with the irrigation, he definitely has some potential of making a lot of getting a lot of value out of this Michelangelo, and just also having very nice resource and food production. And if he then gets something like scientific method, his position definitely could get quite nice. But he is also really low in science now, and getting into a government form might be tricky. So it's not clear yet how it will turn out, how this game will turn out for him. But it definitely has potential. Tamirys cedes, he's the strongest, and there's the territory revealed, and I mean, I have Isabella, the Suez Canal is in the game, and I just started ceding more colonies, so I was willing to bid 1 knight, 1 colonization card and 1 resource. I think that was the maximum that I was willing to bid, but with that I'm able to win it. I mean, I pay basically 4 resources because I definitely will rebuild this knight. It also cost me a population, so it's not very cheap, but 2 additional resources with being in bronze mines is not bad, and also the blue tokens could just be very helpful. Tamirys finishes the Great Wall this turn, going up to 10 strength, and it's definitely a little bit of an issue because I can only get 1 population out at my turn. Having upgraded both of those farms now is even more important after this colony was revealed, so that I at least can get 1 population out. But yeah, it could get a little bit dangerous for me because of the 10 strength of Tamirys. And after finishing the Great Wall, he will go for 1 more upgrade, has now 6 resource production and 5 science production. Doesn't grab the Conmon, but maybe can get it at the next turn. This turn I ceded a scientific breakthrough. I wasn't really certain about it. I didn't want to cede inhabited territory because it could just be nice to have it in hand in case the Suez Canal is available. If I win the strategic territory and get this with the Suez Canal, that I think already would be quite fine. The Crusades is maybe, I just don't know. It could definitely be that I will be the weakest, although I maybe have chances to be stronger than AaronGreen. And one thing that we have to note is that I have knowledge about both of those events, otherwise I probably wouldn't have seeded. But I have knowledge about those 2 events, and one of those is still the immigration, so I kind of wanted to see to just get this out as long as I'm still the player with the most happy faces. And no, I wasn't too happy about seeding scientific breakthrough for the same reason that I already said at the last turn. Tamirys could mean that he gets a government form earlier, or if he already has a government form, then yeah, just maybe helps him to go for some other stuff quicker. So yeah, but it could also help me. because I have, as I said, some issues with the 10 strength that Tamirys has now. First of all, the cultural influence is revealed. And with going for one knight, I'm at 5 strength, but with just having sent away a colonization card with having only 2 cards in hand, if Tamirys has an aggression, it could definitely be worth the try. He could even have an H2 aggression, so that's something I definitely didn't want to risk. And because of that, I went for the warfare. That will mean that I draw 3 cards. So that could be nice, also in case I will go for something like the Suez Canal, and it just makes sure that I can defend myself. I'm also not the weakest, that's maybe not too important, because immigration is the next event, but maybe if AaronGreen seeds, and if he upgrades this one, then it could make a difference, being at 5 or 6 strength. Now he can't easily get stronger unless he develops the cartography, but then he spends a lot of his valuable science. Yeah, and with going for the warfare, I thought that the scientific breakthrough could also be nice for me, just allowing me to maybe go for this Code of Laws quicker and also being able to maybe go for Code of Laws and for coal or something like this. So the scientific breakthrough with that hopefully will also be do something for myself. Then I have 2 civil actions left, and I just grabbed the cannons. I could also do something like going for engineering genius or urban growth, but yeah, just having this cannon available I think is quite nice and is worth more than those yellow cards. I draw colonization cards, so that could be nice. Also the hussars is interesting. AaronGreen seeds and immigration is revealed. I am the one who gets the population out of that, and that's also why I wanted to seed in my last turn, because if I get the population out of that, then I could have actually built 2 knights, meaning that it wouldn't really have been necessary to go for the warfare. Now AaronGreen will go for the irrigation, starts upgrading it, can get some population out maybe relatively soon, goes for the engineering genius and builds 1 stage of the Machu Picchu, can finish it at the next turn. Maybe scientific method or one of those government form could have been interesting for him. No, because I could have maybe set up for a revolution and just being able to upgrade his science, and also with Newton coming down the row, I think he probably should have grabbed one of those 2 cards. Tamirys seeds, and sadly there's already the scientific breakthrough. I wasn't really happy about this because now it indeed will mean that he can go for a government form 1 turn earlier, so that gives him a big boost. Goes for the efficient upgrade for the constitutional monarchy, and then he also grabs the wave of nationalism, another rich land, and builds a 3rd lab. He maybe couldn't really do anything nice with the last civil action, and so he just goes for even more economy. He's the strongest already, and he has a free population, so why not do this? And yeah, like this he gets even more science production. So the scientific breakthrough at the end maybe didn't work out too nicely. At least it also means that I will be able to increase, to develop the Code of Laws at least at my turn. I seeded the Crusades. I didn't want to push the inhabited territory yet because there's coming a Suez Canal down the road, and as long as I don't have drawn a H2 colony, I want to keep this in hand so that I can go for the Suez Canal for certain. The strategic territory is revealed, and I win it for only 3. And I could just send a warrior on the colonization card, but no, with winning this colony, I have already 2. I have the inhabited territory, and I just thought that the Suez Canal will be very strong for me. And so if I draw more colonies, if there are more colonies, then having additional colonization cards could be quite nice, and so I was willing to pay this 1 resource in order to keep a colonization card. And also basically 2 additional resources, because I could have sent away the warrior, maybe then even transition into a Hussars or something. I don't draw an H2 colony, but another colonization card, which could be nice. And then I can develop the Code of Laws. I can build 1 knight, going back to 8 strength, or I was at 6 now because of the strategic territory. I'm at 8, and then with my last 4 civil actions, I just grabbed the Suez Canal. The other cards that I could potentially take are maybe not that strong. Maybe architecture could be fine, but what else do I take? It's not really clear. I mean, Newton maybe could be fine, but Isabella I think is still doing some nice work, and there could be potential other strong leaders. Like for example, James Cook could maybe be interesting if I really draw some more colonies. Anthony Gaudi could also be interesting. Nobel, of course, always is fine. Yeah, so I just take the Suez Canal, just making sure that I have it. The other players don't have a colony, but who knows? Maybe there will be another one revealed that they can win. Maybe they have a very strong one in hand. And so I just wanted to make sure that I have it, and it also means that I can already finish it at the next turn. That would be another thing that would not be possible if I don't take it now, unless I take the architecture, but then I'm kind of forced to develop the architecture, which is maybe not necessarily something that I want to do. So I was just happy getting the Suez Canal. That means that I can go up to 7 resource production at the next turn. I have this inhabited territory in hand, and maybe there's a chance that I will also still draw an H2 colony now. And I indeed draw 1, the wealthy territory, so at my next turn I have to decide between the inhabited or the wealthy territory. The new deposits are revealed, so some additional resources for everyone. AaronGreen will finish the Machu Picchu, and he will just grab the next wonder, the Eiffel Tower, for some more cultural production, and I mean he also will need a happy face, so it's definitely not a bad wonder for him. And then he grabs the architecture and increases his population. Again, he doesn't take the Republic. I mean, with missing out on a strategy, maybe the Republic would be questionable, but I mean, at some point he wants to get a government form, so no. I think maybe you should have set up for this, and the architecture, well, it is nice, saving civil actions for Eiffel Tower, maybe even saving more civil actions for more wonders. It also spends a lot of his science, so I'm not sure about it, but there's also still a Harvard College. Maybe he's really looking to get this at some point, and then he can maybe fix the science production like this, so that could definitely work out nicely. And now with his last action in his turn, he upgrades this warrior to get out of corruption. Tamirys goes for an aggression against AaronGreen. He doesn't seem to have enough defense cards because he sacrifices a swordsman with the Michikaste to defend against his blunder. Tamirys goes for the strategy, goes for even more strength. That definitely could cause some issues for AaronGreen. And then he takes the cannons, Darwin, elects Darwin. Darwin is definitely very nice now with the 3 labs and also with getting this team sports, and then he also goes for the breakthrough, has corruption, but at the next turn he can increase his population, and that will maybe help him to get out of corruption. Also he copies back to, or not back, but he copies the medieval army tactic. He has 3 military actions anyway, and that will definitely be easier to fulfill than the heavy cavalry now that he lost Genghis Khan. This turn I ceded the inhabited territory. A lot of stuff is happening. First of all, I had to decide whether I want to get the wealthy territory or the inhabited territory, and I made the decision that I want to get the wealthy territory with my Suez Canal. Getting those blue tokens could be nice, because with going up to so much production with only being on bronze mines, it could get some blue cubes issues, so I wanted to have this colony immediately, and just with me being on bronze mines, I maybe need the additional resources more than the yellow tokens, and it's just also an H2 colony, so it's maybe just more valuable. And then I see it, and then immediately another territory is revealed. Maybe that was the reason why AaronGreen once picked the cartography, but he didn't develop it. He doesn't even bid for this colony this turn, and so I win this relatively cheaply. I was definitely willing to bid quite a lot for this. But I actually win it quite cheaply, but I have to be a little bit careful when I win it, because I have only 2 blue tokens, and I will lose 1 with the vast territory, meaning if I just win it with sending colonization cards, then I would actually lose something, because I would not gain the 3 food. I have irrigation, so gaining the 3 food only requires 2 blue tokens, but I would lose 1, so I would only get 2 food. It's maybe not too bad, only getting 2 food, but I can fix this relatively easily. I win it for 4, and I just send 1 warrior, pay 1 resource with Isabella, send my colonization card, and that's just a better way than sending this knight, because now I got the 3 food. If I just would have sent a knight and a colonization card, I would have only got 2 food out of this colony, so that was something important to have in mind. And in this turn I can finish the Suez Canal, and one big question this turn was, do I want to go for this architecture or not? I have 6 science, I could just finish the Suez Canal and go for the architecture. And one big question about this architecture, or one thing that was the biggest argument, or that played a big role when thinking about whether to go for the architecture, was this journalism, because I have really now a lot of population, good resource production, so I really wanted to go for those journalisms as soon as possible, because I think it's just a very nice thing to invest some resources into now. And let's first of all finish the Suez Canal. I will get the wealthy territory. It's also interesting, because if you remember the game before, the game that I made my last video about, They also went for the Suez Canal with the Wealthy Territory 2, so 2 games in the season with going for Suez Canal and Wealthy Territory 2, and in the last International Championship season I went 2 times for Columbus with Wealthy Territory 1, so maybe that's a new trend, going for Columbus or Suez Canal with those Wealthy Territories, who knows. Alright, I can finish this with the Wealthy Territory. I really have now a lot of resources available, 8 resource production. I go for the Suez Canal. No. And there were 3 things that I had in mind. One thing that I could do is just do what I do now and not go for the architecture. And then I will just build a warrior and another knight. That means that I even get strongest, I get out of corruption, and at the next turn I can start going for journalisms. Then there are 2 options how I could maybe make this architecture work. First of all, I could do something very similar, or basically the same turn, just with going for the architecture. And then I could still go for journalisms with Gaudi at the next turn. But I didn't like this too much, because first of all, it's not 100% certain if I will get Gaudi. I thought it should be likely, but AaronGreen could take him, and then if I don't get him, I can't go for journalisms, and I really wanted to go for journalisms as quickly as possible. Yeah, but and also I'm kind of forced to take him then. I want to go for journalisms, and then I need Gaudi, which maybe makes me less flexible because I have to spend 1 civil action for that. If there's maybe 1 copy of Rifleman in the row, I really want to get this now that I have this Napoleonic army. So yeah, that just didn't feel nice, and there could even be stronger leaders for me. Gaudi could definitely be a very fine leader in this situation, but James Cook could really be strong in this game, I would say. And also Shakespeare could potentially be quite nice if I get 1 copy of Opera, but I was mainly thinking about James Cook here. Yeah, but there's a last option, and I maybe think that I should have gone for this last option, and that would have been going for architecture, finishing the Suez Canal, taking the journalism, and instead of rebuilding units, I would build 1 alchemy. That would get me out of corruption. It would mean that I have 6 science available. It felt a little bit bad, because if I want to go for journalisms, then maybe I don't really need an additional alchemy. But I get some additional science production immediately. I have this architecture around, which could save me a lot of resources when going for more journalisms, and I just have a lot of population, so I should be fine with putting 1 more population into the alchemy. So I think this turn might have been better, and maybe I should have gone for it. But like this, I don't go for the architecture, which means that I definitely have enough science to go for journalisms at the next turn. And I don't have to build this 3rd lab. Instead, I will build 1 warrior and 1 knight, and that makes me strongest. So that's also something. I have some more units for more colonies to come. And yeah, so there are definitely good reasons to do the turn like this. But I think maybe I could have been a little bit greedy and tried to get this architecture in now, build this additional lab, and then I have the potential to get my journalisms even cheaper. But I have very strong resource production anyway, and so maybe it's also not too bad to not have the architecture. But I think it might have been better to go for it. And then build this 3rd lab. I draw even another colony and a colonization card, so that I really get the cards that I need for a colonization strategy. AaronGreen develops the architecture, finishes the Eiffel Tower, and then he's willing to grab the cavalryman for 3 civil actions, which is interesting. But I mean, yeah, he is a little bit in danger with only having 2 military actions, so he maybe just wanted to make 100% sure that he can go for this at the next turn. Tamirys offers me the scientific cooperation, and I reject it. Could be a fine pact, but the problem is if he gets this, he has 7 with the breakthrough 10 science available, and then he could potentially develop selective breeding for 3, team spots for 3, cannons for 4, that's just 10 science, so he could develop 3 technologies immediately. All of those technologies he probably needs at some point, and then this could turn out to be a rather bad pact for me. And while I have some nice science production, I will also go for journalisms hopefully, so then I will get even more science production. But I also have not the most civil actions. It will take me some civil actions in return to get out of corruption, and so I just thought that this is not a beneficial pact for me. And then Tamirys goes for the selective breeding, upgrades 2 times, goes for the team sports, and builds 1. That also means that he is the strongest now. I have the vast territory in hand, and I mean I have those colonization cards. I have a Suez Canal, so I wanted to push. And a good harvest is revealed. That means even more blue cube issues for me, but also some more food available. No. And Tamirys interestingly didn't take the Rifleman, which was a surprise for me considering that he has the Great Wall and that he maybe would like to have it. Also with having that many warriors, he could have taken it for only 2 civil actions with Darwin. That was a surprise, but he wasn't willing to take one. And now that means that I can take this copy of Rifleman for 2, and I definitely want to do this. Because with being able to go for this Napoleonic army, I can build some journalisms. And I have just a nice tactic that I hopefully can use to defend myself. Maybe I can even go for wars in H3. So that's just something that I definitely want to do, grabbing those riflemen. And then I have to get out of corruption. And as I said, I want to go for those journalisms very quickly. So I develop it, increase my population, build one. And I could have done all of this with going for Gaudi, but actually not that nicely, because when I lose the blue tokens of Isabella, that would cause corruption. So here you can see why I didn't really wanted to be forced to go for Gaudi with developing the architecture. Now that the riflemen are there to grab, that would have been a bit awkward. I might have to delay the journalism in this case. But like this, I can go for the journalism, and I first thought I probably will just increase my population, having more civil actions available for the next turn, because maybe I want to grab James Cook or something. But then I made a decision to grab this copy of Opera. With Darwin, Tamirys can maybe grab this copy of Opera for 1, so it's definitely not certain if this will be available at my next turn. The thing is, of course, I don't know when James Cook will be available, and if I should not get him, then Shakespeare, I think, could be a very strong alternative here, being able to save a lot of resources when going for those operas and signs, and with having that many population, I think I definitely could set up some pairs, and that he could even have a similar potential than James Cook. I mean, there are 2 more colonies in the deck, so James Cook definitely has a lot of potential, and I think I would still prefer him, because then I'm not forced to build those pairs, and I remain more flexible, because I just get a culture production for, having James Cook, and the colonies I want to win anyway. So I would prefer James Cook, but if he's not on the row and if Shakespeare's available, then this opera just gives me this alternative of being able to go for Shakespeare, and so I was willing to take this opera instead of increasing population, and then I probably also would have built 1 more warrior to be the strongest, but I rather wanted to have this opera available. I draw the autonomous territory, so the next territory, the independence declaration, and also the fortifications, which maybe could be an interesting tactic. AaronGreen increases his population, he goes for a cavalryman, builds 1, doesn't want to be at any danger of an aggression, and then he increases his population and takes the breakthrough. He definitely needs some science. And then he also reveals the conquistadors. If he builds 1 more cavalryman, then he will get +8 strength. Tamirys Seeds and a knowledge of the ancients is revealed. It's a very nice event for AaronGreen. Getting 5 signs is more than 2 times his production at the moment, so a very helpful event for him. Tamirys goes for Rifleman. Now he gets this copy for cheaper, so turned out to be the right decision. But I think it was a little bit greedy to not take them, especially now that I know that he doesn't have the fortifications. So he goes for Rifleman this turn, upgrades 2 times, going up to 15 or even to 17 strength. Then he increases his population, takes the reserves, the urban growth. Now the urban growth gets a lot of resource cards. He definitely has a very nice economy, has the strength lead, so he also has quite a nice position. I thought that with this Suez Cannon, also with getting James Cook, I might have the best position here, but I also have some issues. I mean, getting out of corruption is not even that difficult as it looks, because just building one journalism spends a lot of those blue tokens, but I just thought with more colonies to come, with having those colonization cards in hand, with getting James Cook, with having those journalisms, I have a very nice position. But Tamirys has also quite a lot of stuff going for him, while AaronGreen has still some issues. But he can maybe, if he gets the Harvard College relatively quickly, then he can maybe also still transition into a very nice position. But now he is again in danger with being only at 9 strength, so he may probably has the worst position here. My turn, I see the autonomous territory and the inhabited territory is revealed. I win it for 5. So I I could have sent colonization cards, I could have used Isabella's ability, but at the end I just sent this army away. And the reason for that is that I have the fortifications in hand. The Napoleonic army is of course perfectly fine, but it would require me to develop the rifleman, meaning that I would have to invest 6 science that I don't have to invest now. And now that I can just send this army, I can very nicely transition into fortifications tactic. And the fortifications tactic also is not as easily copy. My opponents are not that easily able to copy this tactic. I mean, AaronGreen doesn't have any cannons anyway, but if he would get rockets, he could maybe then go for rockets and go for the Napoleonic army. Tamirys has Rifleman, if he sees the Napoleonic army, could go for cannons, cavalryman, and has a very nice tactic, while for both of them, transitioning into the fortifications is not that easily possible. I increase my population, then I will go for James Cook. I have to increase my population first, otherwise I don't have enough blue tokens to switch my leader. Now when I switch my leader to James Cook, I have just enough. And James Cook gives me +6 culture reduction immediately. He will help me to win more colonies. So I just wanted to get him now that he is available, and I definitely prefer him over Shakespeare here, I would say. But if Shakespeare would have been here instead of Cook, then I maybe would have gone for Shakespeare. And then, I will have to build some cannons now, so that I'm not in danger of any aggressions. I build 2 cannons, reveal the tactic, we are still in H2, and so I want to use the military action now, especially also because the other players can't really copy it anyway. And so I go up to 16 strength, then I increase my population one more time, and I even build another cannon, just making sure that I'm even the strongest now. And maybe some of those units I maybe need anyway if I want to win some colonies. And then I have 1 civil action left, and I just increase my population one more time. I don't need any of those cards really. I mean, organized religion could be interesting to have happy face solution. I will lose the bread and circuses, but I have those operas, I get the Hippocrates token, and there will be the vast territory coming. So I just thought I don't really need a happy face solution, and at some point, hopefully, maybe can go for pro sports, or maybe I don't even need a happy face solution until the rest of the game. Don't draw any cards this turn, but at least I have an event that I can see it. I mean, it's maybe not an ideal event with me being the only one who has colonies, but I also was hoping that I hopefully should be able to not be the weakest with my fortifications tactic. Then AaronGreen goes for the Harvard College. He could finish it immediately, but then he would be in danger of maybe even two aggressions potentially. So instead he builds 1 cavalryman, delays Harvard College by 1 more turn, which is definitely costly for him. He needs the science as quickly as possible. Finishing it now would also mean that he would be able to go for Conmon at the next turn, but he probably didn't want to risk getting it by 2 aggressions, so instead he takes the engineering genius and also the organized religion, builds even 1 more cavalryman, and is now even the strongest. One reason why I wanted to get stronger is also that I actually know the top event, and this top event is the Crusades. So, and I thought that maybe AaronGreen would get stronger, and I just didn't want to lose it, because we're definitely in a stage of the game where getting 4 additional Kaiser or not makes definitely a difference. Or even, Tamirys goes for the Air Force. He can grab those for cheaper, and then he will upgrade his economy with going for a very early oil, the 2nd card of the new age. He can go for it immediately, and he goes for 2 upgrades. So he is definitely improving his economy. He has still all of those yellow cards, has nice population, so I definitely have to be careful and have to make sure that I really get a lot out of the nice things that I have going. Then it's my turn. I'm not the weakest, so I'm willing to cede. I just wanted to push the deck forward to get those colonies as early as possible. And so I ceded the Independence Declaration, and the Crusades are revealed. I'm not part of this. I built 1 more journalism. There were some different options how I could maybe play this. First of all, there was the big decision if I should maybe build a journalism or if I should maybe build another cannon. Another cannon could really put some pressure on the other players, but I don't really have anything. I don't know if there are strength events. I have disaggression, but at the end AaronGreen can maybe defend against it, and Tamirys has a lot of military actions. I didn't really know what this cannon achieves immediately, so I rather wanted to get this journalism going. And then I didn't really knew what to do, but then I had this idea, and I was sure what I want to do, and I just went for those satellites. The thing is, there are still 2 colonies coming. Colonies are quite valuable for me with having the Suez Canal and James Cook, and yeah, so those satellites are quite nice for me, hopefully helping me to win those colonies. And if I don't go for them, and maybe one of the other players like Tamirys goes for the satellites, then it could actually be quite difficult for me to win those remaining colonies. So I just wanted to have the satellites for myself. It's also nice technology for some impacts, and it will hopefully mean that I can win those last 2 colonies relatively cheaply. Also, it means that I am the strongest now immediately, which is another nice thing. With my last civil action, I could increase my population, but I rather went for the revolutionary idea, because that means that I could go for democracy if one is available at the next turn. And I have a really nice draw here, another colonization card, and this impact of colonies, of course, could be a really strong impact. If I'm able to win the last 2 colonies, then that would be plus 21, that's basically already like having an H3 wonder build, and this impact of variety is also quite nice. So those are definitely very nice draws, and I was very happy about them. AaronGreen opens the immigration. He's the only one having unhappy population, so he will lose 1 population, and he has to go for organized religion this turn. Otherwise, he has some big uprise issues. So he goes for an upgrade. He finishes Harvard College, and then he at least takes Nobel in hand. Doesn't have the civil actions to elect him already at the next turn or this turn, but he can elect him at the next turn, and then he has finally some decent science production. But he has to miss out on the Conmon and has to hope that he maybe can get a government form relatively early. Also, it is the beginning of H3 now. We can maybe take a look at the overview, and we can see that both me and Tamirys have relatively nice economies. Tamirys has now even better resource production, and I would say that I have the better food production. I have less here shown, but I have just this very nice yellow bank, and so yeah, that is going for me. And the big thing that I have is the culture reduction. I already have a little bit of a culture lead, and hopefully that lead will get bigger, and that is maybe the big advantage that I have. And yeah, AaronGreen has even the most culture. That's maybe the thing that is going best for him, but I still think he probably has the worst position here, because yeah, it still has a lot of things that he has to fix, like getting more military actions, getting a government form. Ideally, you can maybe fix those 2 things with only 1 government, and yeah. But he also has some nice things going. He has some nice Machu Picchu production, and at least now the science from the Harvard College will get more science with Nobel, so he could still stabilize his position. And definitely already stabilized it quite a bit with finishing this Harvard College. The vast territory is revealed, and I win it for very cheap. I don't even need to send a colonization card now that I have the satellites. Sadly, I don't have any warrior, then I could have gotten it for even cheaper, but of course the knights is also perfectly fine. Tamirys takes the military theory, builds 1 more team sports, builds even another team sports, and then he's going for Pierre and switches to Pierre, has now 9 culture reduction, will get Olympic Games, goes even for 1 more upgrade, so yeah, I think he definitely improves his position here. My turn, I'm not the weakest, I have some nice impacts, and maybe there's another colony that I want to win, and I see the impact of colonies, and I was surprised there's even another colony that I didn't seed it, the developed territory. And again, I'm able to win this relatively cheaply. Sadly, I have only cannons left, so I have to send a cannon, but of course that's a perfectly fine price for me. So I win this territory for 1 cannon, and then this turn, now I have some different options. Have to be a little bit careful, because if Tamirys has something like positional army, he definitely has the potential with cannons, air forces, military theory, wave, and in general his big resource production to build up for a big war. And maybe taking this military theory away was already a little bit of a preparation for that, because he has strategy for himself, so he maybe doesn't really need it for himself. But now, if he goes for cannons and air forces, if he has drawn a nice tactic, things could get quite dangerous. So I have to be careful about this. And so I, instead of building even more journalism or stuff like this, I instead go for those air forces. I definitely would have taken them, but I will also go for them immediately. I will also grab the engineering. I have this impact of variety, and it definitely could be a nice card for me, maybe saving some resources if I build some more journalisms, or maybe operas or movies or something like this. Then I developed the Air Forces, and I mean, just look at this yellow bang, that's just very crazy stuff. And I can get a lot of population out. And now I will increase my population 2 times. I will build one Air Force that makes me the strongest, and this time I will also build this warrior, because this autonomous territory left, I have a lot of defensive cards in hand, and I also have the satellites, so there's definitely the chance that I will win it for just one warrior, and so I wanted to have this warrior available. And then I have one civil action left, and I just increased my population. But I was a little bit worried about this war possibility, because I mean, I have definitely very fine resource production, but yeah, if I don't get any reserves, then I can build 2 cannons now at the next turn, maybe one air force, but if Tamirys has drawn the right tactic, maybe also the modern army if he gets the tanks, things could definitely get dangerous for myself. But there's also very good news. I draw the impact of progress, so I have another strong impact in hand, and just with those 3 impacts, or just because of those 3 impacts, I felt relatively comfortable about my position. With the culture lead, I have some very strong impacts, especially the impact of colonies. Now that I have even 7 colonies available, James Cook at the moment is producing me 8 culture, and Suez Canal is producing me 7 resources, so that is going very, very crazy. And with those nice impacts, I felt comfortable about my position. But the thing I was worried most, as I said, is this strength potential that Tamirys could potentially have. AaronGreen goes for Nobel this turn, and then he will go for 1 cavalryman, making him the strongest, increases population, takes the rockets, and also the efficient upgrade. Then Tamirys plays the wave for 6 additional resources, goes for the cannons, increases his population, and goes for 2 cannons, and he copies the fortifications tactic. It makes him the strongest, but I was actually very happy about this, because I think if he has the positional army, he probably wouldn't copy this tactic now. Maybe he wouldn't reveal it yet, because it could also be a nice tactic for myself. I have the rifleman. But I think he wouldn't copy this fortifications tactic and miss out on draws. So I was very happy about seeing this, because that maybe means that he has not a nice tactic available at the moment, and it could mean that I'm not as much in danger of a potential war. And then he also just grabs the spaceflight to have a nice wonder that he can finish at the end. This turn I didn't see it. I really want to see it, because I have 2 strong impacts. Maybe I draw even more, so I kind of wanted to push every politics action. But there is sadly the Independence Declaration. Losing a colony would cost me 1 resource production immediately, 1 culture production immediately. Of course, I would also lose the benefits of the colonies, and the blue tokens are actually quite valuable, so maybe I would lose the strategic territory, but the strength also could be quite valuable. So I think that actually would be quite a bad event for me. Then there could potentially also be other strength events. There is 1 event that I don't have knowledge about. I mean, it of course would have been very nice if I had just opened autonomous territory and win it immediately, but no, I just sadly don't have the knowledge which event is on top, and so I rather didn't want to push. And I played a revolutionary idea, and I will go for democracy. It just gives me a nice boost. I have even more civil actions, and it's also a little bit of a denial pick, because AaronGreen could maybe also go for democracy. I still think that Tamirys has the better position, so it's maybe not really necessary to do a hate draft against AaronGreen. On the other hand, if he gets this democracy, will be at 11. Culture reduction, he can maybe end the age relatively quickly, maybe also finish a wonder, and he definitely could maybe do something with it. So I thought it could still be nice for me if he stays in despotism for a little bit longer. Of course, there could be just another government form revealed, but still, it could also be not the case, and then he at least stays for 1 more turn at despotism. And of course, the democracy is also quite nice for myself. I go up to 17 culture production now, increase my population, and then I just build 1 and 2 cannons, making me the strongest so that I'm not in danger of those events, and just also investing my resources into my military so that I'm hopefully prepared for potential wars. And then I take the reserves. I just wanted to have as many resources as possible to make a war as unlikely as possible. And if there wouldn't be the threat of a war, maybe I also would just increase my population 2 times. But because of the threat, I wanted to have the reserves. Sadly, it wasn't that easily possible to grab reserves and patriotisms. Then I probably would have to skip the democracy, but I was hoping that I'm safe enough to yeah, so that I can afford missing out on one of those 2 yellow cards. Especially now that Tamirys copied the fortifications tactic. Sadly, I have to discard one colonization card at the end of my turn because I really want to keep both of those impacts, and that means that I can only keep 2, but hopefully I will still be able to win the autonomous territory. I draw the impact of government, and yeah, this game is just going very well for me. Things are going very nicely. Impact of government is another nice impact, and of entrenchments tactic hopefully should make me completely safe from a war. Can go for the rifleman, can go for 2 of those tactics with air forces, potentially even for more on the long run, and that hopefully will make sure that I am not in danger of a war. And with that, I was now very confident about this game, because my culture lead is now just relatively big. I have now more civil actions, and I will be able to defend myself. And then there are still those very strong impacts that I have. AaronGreen seeds, and there was indeed the independence declaration on top, so I was happy that I didn't seed, and AaronGreen is the weakest, but he has no colonies. He will go for the modern infantry, increases his population, builds another farm, which is interesting. I mean, it could be nice for some impacts at some point. It also will mean that he can increase his population immediately the next turn, but still an interesting decision building this farm now at this point. And then he will grab the Bro Sports, that's of course also quite a nice technology for some impacts. And yeah, could have maybe grabbed the movies to have some potential for cultural reduction, but he maybe is also a little bit afraid of potential wars. Tamirys seeds, and it was even more important to get stronger, as we see now, because one of the one event that I didn't have knowledge about is actually the refugees. So I win this now, and it is of course another nice thing that happens to me. Tamirys doesn't look like he's preparing for war. Instead, he goes for computers, preparing for impacts, preparing for a big space flight, and he just goes for 3 upgrades and then takes the tanks. But I still have to be somewhat careful. He could develop tanks and air forces and could still go for a decent amount of strength, but with those entrenchments in hand, I should hopefully be fine. This turn I see the impact of variety and autonomous territories revealed. As you can see, I win it. And there's also one other sad thing that happens, because Tamirys actually times out at this moment. So he sadly becomes a bot. Maybe he just didn't have the time, maybe a lot of things were going on in real life. I just don't know what the reason for this timeout was. He didn't write anything, so now sadly he times out, and that means that from now on I basically only have to play against AaronGreen, because if I finish before him, then I will get the first place. And it will be irrelevant on which position the bot will finish. But it's of course a little bit sad, but it's just how it is. I win this autonomous territory. Sadly the bot bids quite a lot, and I have to send an air force. I didn't want to send any of those cards away with James Cook. I wanted to keep all of those in hand. And then I go for the Rifleman. I prepare to set up for this entrenchments tactic. I build 1 air force. I will draw 3 cards, and I will grab this patriotism, and that will actually allow me, if I should draw a war, I could declare war, play the patriotism. I have 3 military actions, which allows me to build 1 rifleman, 1 air force, reveal the tactic. So I wanted to be set up for this, and so that if I should draw a war, maybe I can just go for this war and against AaronGreen, and that should make everything clear. And I have a lot of civil actions, and there are a lot of stuff to take. First I thought I will maybe just increase my population a bunch of times, but all of those cards definitely have a case for it. I wanted to have the patriotism because of the potential war. I wanted to have both revolutionary ideas, because I will grab the civil service. That will be nice for impact of progress in government, but if I want to go for civil service engineering, then I definitely might need some science, and both of those ideas are available for cheap. Also, those could be nice for AaronGreen. He has a lot of science saved up, but if he invests something like communism, then he also has not the most left, so that's also a little bit of a denial. Then this engineering genius could be very nice. And I will also grab, as I said, the civil service and the urban growth, so I just take tons of cards in my hand. I'm not sure if this is really the best move, but engineering genius and urban growth could allow myself maybe to go for a big Hollywood, and I just get a lot of value and can now do a lot of stuff. I have enough civil actions, so they hopefully don't get any problems because of it at the next turn. And so I was just willing to take all of those cards. Maybe I could have not taken the urban growth and increased my population 2 times, but this urban growth is also quite nice for more journalisms. I mean, I have no resources saved up, so yeah, I think it was maybe actually the right call to just take all of those cards. And now I will actually draw 3 wars, also 1 hybrid war, so now that definitely is an option for the next turn, with me being set up for this entrenchments tactic. AaronGreen offers the military alliance to the bot, to Tamirys, and he will go for communism. That means that he has to fix his happy face, he will go for 1 more organized religion, takes the multimedia, the endowment, and the military build-up. Then Tamirys seeds, and top impact is the impact of happiness. That's probably one of the worst impacts for me. With me, I mean, I just don't need any happy faces because I have that big of a yellow bank, but of course that is bad for this impact, so that's a good one for my opponents. Tamirys goes for tanks, grabs the multimedia, and will build 1. At the next turn he can finish the space flight, but as I said, he is a bot now, so it doesn't matter too much what he does. And with having those wars, I just went for this hybrid war now. Could also go for normal war, but I will anti-age, and then AaronGreen definitely has some issues. He will have some big uprising problems. He can go for Chaplin to fix it, but that means that he will not go for Churchill, and also will let Chaplin stay on 2. So they should win this war, and yeah, I might not even win it by that much. He has a Meiji Castle, and he can do something, but still that should mean that he is forced to react to this. I will still win the war, even if it's only by a little bit, and it causes some big issues for him. He can't nicely grab a wonder or something like this, and that should just make sure that I finish before him at the end. If Tamirys wouldn't be a bot, then I probably wouldn't go for this war. Because, yeah, as I said, I wouldn't maybe not even win by that much, and using this politics phase to declare war now means that I can't see an impact for 1 turn. And I actually think if Tamirys would still be not a bot, then I probably would not go for the war. Maybe I would still do it, I would have to think about it, but I think then there could just be a case for going seeding impact of progress or something like this. Now, I have to increase my population a bunch of times, play the patriotism, I will build 1 rifleman, 1 air force, reveal the tactic, and then I just grab this fast food chain, so I take this away anyway. And then I also want to anti-age to cause even more issues, so I take this, after developing the civil service, I will take the military theory, enough science with the revolutionary ideas to go for engineering and military theory, which will make my impact of progress very, very big. So I took this instead of even another yellow card, because I have really a lot of yellow cards already in hand. And sadly, I was missing 1 civil action to actually develop the military theory. So that was one reason why I could maybe have gone for normal war. Then instead of developing the civil service, I could have developed the military theory, because I would need only 1 civil action less to increase my population, because I don't have any unhappy workers. So then I could have developed the military theory, so a normal war would actually be a bigger culture swing. It's maybe a little bit questionable, but developing this military theory maybe also means with having less civil actions that I can do less stuff at my last turn, and also then there aren't those big issues that AaronGreen has. Then the age ends, AaronGreen seeds, and the impact of harmony is revealed. It's plus 20 for Tamirys, it's plus 20 for myself, and it is plus 16 for AaronGreen. He will go for Chaplin, and then he will go for the modern infantry, place the military build-up, and destroys a bunch of stuff to even go for a 3rd Conquistadors armies, and with sacrificing he will be able to go over 60 strength. Then the bot also seeds, the impact of variety is revealed. That is one of my impacts, plus 14 for Tamirys, plus 18 for me, and plus 8 for AaronGreen. Tamirys goes for air forces, and then finishes the space flight for 30 cultures. That's not bad. He increases population and builds 1 more farm, so that could maybe indicate impact of balance, but I don't know how well those bots actually prepare for impacts. But I mean, if that move would have been done by an actual player, then that definitely would be a big indicator for something like impact of agriculture or balance even more. This turn I can see the impact of progress in. First of all, I will steal 9 cultures, so there you can see that the wall is actually not that big. But of course still I will steal something, and it prevented AaronGreen from doing anything nice. The impact of wonders is revealed, so that is actually quite a nice impact for AaronGreen. I get a least out of this. I will go for engineering. I will go for the military theory, meaning that I have the biggest impact of progress possible. I have all of the H3 technologies for those 5 spots, so that is very nice. And then I have some civil actions left. I go for 1 journalism. I will take and elect Churchill, increase my population, and then I will just finish the fast food chains for 24 points. I'm not 100% sure if that is really the best turn, but I think it should be a very, very fine turn, and yeah, I think it just is over now. I will probably win it, and even if Tamirys finishes before me, I still win it, and I think that AaronGreen overtakes me is almost out of the question, or maybe even completely out of the question now at this position, so I didn't put too much thought into this turn, but I think it's just very fine getting this journalism, getting 3 culture from Churchill, getting the biggest impact of progress possible, and getting those fast food chains. And at the end of the game, I'm still at this stage of my yellow bank, so that's really crazy. Then AaronGreen tries an aggression against Tamirys, but that fails, and he will go for 1 multimedia, the reserves, plays the endowment for 6 culture, plays the reserves, and builds 1 more multimedia, takes the tanks, and that is the end of his turn, and he will go into the final impacts with 169 culture. I'm at 234, and Tamirys is at 201. The first impact is indeed the impact of balance, so that's a very nice one for Tamirys, also not that bad for AaronGreen. Then there is my big impact of progress, plus 30 for myself and only plus 10 for both of my opponents, so a plus 20 impact against both of my opponents, which is of course very nice. Then there's the impact of science, so that's another good one for Tamirys. We have the impact of industry, another good one for Tamirys, but then we have another very, very strong impact from myself as last impact, and that is the impact of colonies, plus 24. It's basically like having another H3 wonder, and plus 0 for both of my opponents, meaning that I finish at 306 culture, Tamirys at 258, AaronGreen at 199, but because Tamirys timed out, AaronGreen will get the 2nd place for the standings, so no. And so I am also able to win this last game of the season. I think this game, a lot of things went well for me. I missed out on the iron in the early game, but thanks to Isabella I was able to still at least have 4 resource production. And no, then I started seeding some colonies. There were even more colonies. I kinda was able to win all of those, even though I didn't have any cartography technology, only got satellites at the beginning of H3. Then the Suez Canal was available. I drew a lot of colonies, so that just went very nicely. And yeah, then the Suez Canal was just very crazy, giving me 8 resource production at the end, James Cook producing me at the end even 9 culture per turn. That was just very, very crazy. And then I also had some tactics available, and with that I was able to defend myself. And I think Tamirys, even if he wouldn't time out, I think I would probably still finish before him. He probably would be able to get some more culture out of this, but the bot didn't do anything completely stupid, so I think he would be able to make up those almost 50 culture that he is behind me, and AaronGreen probably also would have finished last. So the timeout of course means for the standings that AaronGreen will get 2 points, so we will take a look at the standings very soon. So this game just went very well for me. It definitely was a nice game for me to play with having this very big Suez Canal, and then sadly Tamirys timed out, but we will take a look at the standings immediately to see what that will actually make for a difference. And so I don't think there's anything more to say to this game, so we will take a look at the standings now. And before we take a look at the final standings, we can take a look at the last game where Footloop was involved. That is very important for the question who will get relegated. And maybe you remember the last International Championship season, and there Footloop was at a very bad position, but he won his last 4-player game and then he just stayed into the league. And this season it is very similar. In his last game he finished first before Wozniacki and Tamirys, and that means that in the standings he will actually finish at the 3rd place and he will stay in the league. So with this win he made sure to stay in the league. I was able to win the season. The season went very nicely for me. I mean 27 points is definitely quite a nice amount of points. I definitely had some luck. The last game, for example, I think things went very nicely for me. But for example, in the game before, there definitely were also some things that definitely went nice for me. But I also had some issues with not having air forces. And you remember the game? There were some stuff that weren't going perfectly. So I'm happy, of course, about this very nice season for myself. Wozniacki is in the 2nd position. So again, we both finish at the top 2 positions, like it was in the last seasons the case. Footloop stays in the league. It's also nice that at the end, the timeout of Tamirys didn't have any consequences for the standings, because the the order would have been the same. AaronGreen maybe would have lost this game, would be at 8 points. Tamirys would have maybe finished 2nd, would be at 7 points, but he would still be last. AaronGreen would still be at the 4th place, and Footloop would still be at the 3rd place. So Footloop stays in the league. AaronGreen and Tamirys will get relegated, but maybe they can make it back in the next season. And then I just hope that it was an interesting season for you. And the International Championship season already started. And the first games will maybe finish relatively soon. I'm a bit busy over Christmas, so I will try to upload those International Championship games as quickly as possible, but there probably won't be any additional videos coming in addition to this. And as a little spoiler, in the next International Championship season there is a very strong player returning, so maybe there will be a very strong contender for the next season against me and Wozniacki. So with that, I hope it was an interesting game, an interesting season for you, and then have a nice time and see you in the next video.